That's what I'm saying. You're the good social worker.
But I'm also kind of Nora because I would literally punch someone in the throat if they messed with you.
Yeah. So that's a warning.
So, just a warning to all who listening, if
Just
you
a,
mess with Michelle, I will punch you in the throat and it will hurt. Because Greg actually told me the other day, he said, "You are a lot stronger than you appear."
no, you are. I can vouch for that. I can vouch for that.
I am.
Yeah, you are.
You don't have babies in the 90th percentile and not being the strongest woman on the block.
The thing is, like, your 2-year-old definitely weighs more than you.
He is 39 pounds.
And that's half of you.
That's a lot. And he's not like big. He's just
No,
like
he's not. He's
tall in
dense.
proportion.
He's dense.
He's dead. All right. Welcome to the Cover to Cover Girls. We are your host. I'm Hallie Bell. This is,
Michelle. Hi, everybody.
and we are talking about Sally Hepworth's new book, Darling Girls. No, it's not about us. Shocker.
Spoiler.
If you did see the alternate cover on our Instagram, it's worth it checking out because those are some darling girls.
Those are the most darling girls I've ever seen.
I went so deep in your Instagram. I was like, what's the most darling photo of Michelle? And this was the photo that I selected
Which one did
was
you
a
use?
picture within a picture.
What
It's
was
one
it?
of you.
Oh.
You have your hands like this and you're giving a soft smile. And you're going
that,
like
that is such a darling photo.
It's a darling photo.
And I'm wearing your favorite sweatshirt in that picture.
And you're wearing my favorite sweatshirt. So it's just like the perfect recipe. And then I picked a photo of myself in the grass on my tummy with my hand in a fist. Darling.
Darling. Now, unlike these darling girls, they are not really that darling.
This book is awesome.
No, it is. It is awesome, but it's just hysterical because Hallie Bell just finished this book like 20 minutes ago, and I finished it in December. So I don't remember a single thing.
I finished it. I finished it 2 days ago, and
yeah,
I'm
and you read it so
still
quick.
Riding on the high. I read it in 3 days.
A 2-day book high is huge.
You will fly through this book if you are into family drama suspense with quirky humor. And it's honestly, it's the same genre of rabbit hole. Like there's some funny jokes between the girls and like funny situational things that are not necessarily like straightforward. Like it's dry humor. Like their situation sucks and like they're just like saying it sucks. You know, and I love that type of humor.
It's so funny that we start this episode by saying that this like very trigger heavy like psychological book is funny. We're like it's funny. It's witty.
No, Sally Hepworth does this so seamlessly of taking heavy topics and turning them into learning experiences along with making it an enjoyable read. Because if you did not have some humor relief, then like this book would be far too dark and too heavy and no one would read it.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. And I'm not the biggest Sally Hepworth fan, as you know. But I do love that she puts so much research into the subjects that she covers. Like, she researched the foster care system so heavily before writing this book or while writing it.
And it's at the end of the book that she really divulges that. Like, she has like a what is it called at the end of the book where they kind of give their acknowledgments.
Yeah.
And she goes into just a paragraph talking about sitting down with actual social workers, actual kids that are in the foster system. And I found it interesting that this is how it's operating in Australia.
Yeah.
So it leads me to think like this is happening all over the world. This is foster care in the world, like not just America. We think the American foster system sucks. No, it sucks everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Because it sucks for kids to be separated from their parents, period. Even if they have the worst parents in the world, it's very hard to make that that relationship work anywhere else. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And kids are kids and kids need their parents, you know, and I
Wow.
think that that's kind of like the message of this book. And even though how twisted it is, like
Mhm.
at the end of the day, babies need their moms.
Wow. And that's
Spoken
the
from a
episode.
mother.
And that's the episode. There you have it. Well, why don't you give like a quick little summary since you just read the book? And also, this book just came out like what, a few days ago, last week?
Just a few days ago. There's barely any like traction on it yet. I was
No, yeah.
trying to do some research for the podcast, like getting a feeler out there. And Goodreads has it clocking in at like a 4.1 star, which I just think is like low to start
Whoa. Hot
for this
take.
book. Um, I was suspecting higher because
Should
like
we
it's just came out and I know that's her fans reading right off the bat.
well
And so I was just surprised.
now let me say something else.
Oh, go ahead.
I I am openly not a Sally Hepworth fan on Goodreads. Not that that matters at all, but I got this book back like winter of last year as an advance copy.
Yes.
And so I think that her publishing team or like PR team was like doing heavy like PR work to get reviews beforehand because I don't think that they really did that with what was the other one called, The
The
Soulmate,
soulmate.
her last
Yes.
book. And
I
she had a lot of reviews, like it was huge before the book was published. So I don't know, maybe that's
yes.
something to think about, that they were trying to reach out to new people.
And avid readers, which maybe makes a difference. And it also came out before in Australia before it hit America.
Oh, true.
So she had those Australian reviews in. And
Interesting.
so like her native reviews. But I think once it's out there for a little bit, it might go up. But anyways, here's your synopsis.
Give it
This
to us.
book is 4 POVs of 3 foster care girls. And then you eventually find out, spoiler alert, that the fourth POV is from Miss Fairchild.
Ugh.
And I just love that she named her Fairchild. Like, it's just so good.
It's so
Um,
silly.
it's silly. And it's basically these 3 girls get placed in a place called Wild Meadows, which, under the care of the foster mom, Miss Fairchild, it tells their backstory of how they came to be at Miss Fairchild's place, their experience at Miss Fairchild's place, where she takes in several girls, not just the 3 girls
Mhm.
with the POVs, but several babies and the infamous Amy, who is the 2-year-old that goes missing
Mm.
while the girls are there. And they flash forward back and forth and come into present day, and they have to go basically into trial, or basically they're going
Yeah.
into the investigation of bones found under the Wild Meadows mansion.
Mhm.
And they have to come back to the Port Agatha, their hometown of Wild Meadows, and kind of confront the demons that are there.
Mhm.
Miss Fairchild.
And you don't
And their
know
past.
if they're coming back as suspects or witnesses.
Yes. And so it's just I mean, that's just a very brief synopsis of what goes down in this book because there's a lot of avenues that this book takes.
Yeah.
And basically, all 3 girls, of course, suffer from mental illness from their treatment of Miss Fairchild's at the Wild Meadows. And they're coming to terms with those demons there and facing them head on. And I think it's interesting because they do know what their mental illnesses are going into this,
Yeah.
but I don't think that any of them know the extent of their mental illness, which
Mhm.
I think is a very common thing in our society where people say, "Oh, I have depression. Oh, I have anxiety. Oh, I have, you know, these disorders," but they don't know the roots and they don't know
Yeah.
how extensive it is. And that is how it is for these girls. They're like, "Oh, I know I'm messed up, but
But
I couldn't tell you how bad."
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And Another thing that I don't think you said, and I'm asking you to confirm, wasn't it written like from current and previous like didn't you see their childhood point of view too?
Yes. So you
Okay.
get their backstory and you
Yep.
get the forward story of where they are,
Yes.
and
Yes. Yes.
then
Yes.
and then it wraps up for you with a surprise ending. Um
Woohoo.
and I mean, I did see that a lot of people were upset with the ending
Yeah, me
because it
too.
doesn't seem like it's not justice. But I think that the point she was trying to make in this is that there is no justice in foster care.
Ooh, yeah.
And a lot of people were mad at her for hating on the foster care system and showing I think, in my opinion, and this is my
Mhm.
podcast, so I can say,
You can have any opinion you want, HB.
my mom was a social worker.
Oh, I didn't know
Um,
that.
yes, she was in the social care system for, I think, almost 11 years because she
Wow.
did it before I was born, and then she did it when I was in early school. And then, of course, she got
Huh.
burnt out on it and it became unsafe because
Yeah.
we were her. She had 3 children and calling all late hours, and the kids were getting older that she was taking care of. And she just felt like it was
Yeah.
putting us in harm's way. So she stopped. And I can say that the system is that, and most
Mhm.
people were like, it can't be all this bad. And from my mom's stories, it is all this bad.
Mhm. And she's just bringing awareness to it by writing books like this, you know?
Yes. And I think how you said she did the research, she talked to people in the system, and there are heroes in the foster care system. And
Yeah.
Alicia is a perfect character written for
Mhm.
this because she, flash forward, is a social worker, which is just so
It's
crazy
crazy.
because she was in the foster care system to have the strength to go back in and be the social
Mhm.
worker and help children. Like, she's doing the best she can, and she still knows that it's not perfect,
Mhm.
you
Wow.
know.
Especially after seeing their horrible social worker. That guy. Ugh. Sorry,
Selling
I'm just like getting
kids.
straight into it.
Selling kids. That was one of the biggest shocks for me because I knew he was shady,
Yeah.
but I didn't see that he sold her Amy. Like, I
Yeah.
thought it was Miss Fairchild getting him to steal children for her. I didn't think that he was going to be like a child trafficking
Yeah.
menace.
That was literally like my first note here on my note sheet was thoughts on weird guy Scott question mark social worker question mark. Do we think he is shady from the get-go question mark? And I'm like, yeah, I did.
I think he was shady, but I didn't know he was like the
We
origin
didn't know
villain.
he was
Like,
selling children.
that is wild. And
Crazy.
I guess that's a tidbit from her research because I've just never heard of like
No.
selling kids within the foster system, taking advantage of vulnerable people that don't speak the native language,
Mm-hmm.
and like telling them they're going to get deported if they don't let them take their kid. Like,
Like what?
what kind
Crazy.
of terribleness is out there that we just don't even know?
Yeah. Literally.
And
Ah.
I I'm scared. Um, okay, so what do you think about the twist? About
Well,
Miss Fairchild ended up being like lying to the psychologist about this terrible story. Like, it's probably one of the most heinous stories I've ever heard.
yeah, it definitely isn't. If you would have asked me 3 hours ago, I would have said, what twist?
I know.
But Hallie Bell is so mad at me because I texted her and I was like, what was the twist again?
What's this book about?
I was like, wait,
I'm
who's
like,
Miss
we
Fairchild?
scheduled this episode a week ago.
I know she's so mad. But like looking back and reading, like I went back and found a really good spoiler website,
Oh,
which
perfect.
I should link when I post this on YouTube because this woman just really helped me. She saved me a ton. But I was so surprised by just like the fact that this woman would not necessarily the twist, but why like the fact that she would make up this story. Like
Yeah.
it's
How messed up
crazy
can you
to me.
be? It's one
How
of the most
messed up
heinous
can you
stories I've
be?
ever heard.
And to make
Like,
that up
and to
on
make that up and then to use
that
the
Yes.
tactics that she used on the
Yes.
girls, because when the girls are spelling out, so the girls go to the authorities
Mhm.
eventually, like after years of suffering under her care, because they are trying to protect Amy, the vulnerable 2-year-old at
The
home.
baby. Yeah.
And they are like, well, they go to the police and they're spelling it out for them, and it I hate to say this, but it doesn't sound that bad when they're like
No.
laying out what she did. But
Yeah.
like what she did was, they're like, she made us do chores. And it's like, no, you don't know the
Okay.
extent of the
Yeah.
chores.
Yeah. Well, and they're also like how old at this point? Like probably between the ages of like 12 and 14.
And they're taking care of babies.
Babies, multiple babies.
Multiple that they don't know. They don't know if they have any special needs. Like they don't know
Mhm.
anything about these children. They're coming in the middle of the night. And you don't realize, but like at this age, like at this age, kids need to be sleeping 10 to 11 hours a night, and they're staying up. Like it's actually harming their development.
The
You know,
girls.
like
Yeah.
kids, 13-year-olds are not meant to stay up all night, every night.
Taking
Like
care of sleeping babies.
taking care of sleeping babies. And the worst scene for me
Oh,
was
tell
when
us.
she makes Alicia eat the beans off the floor.
Oh my God.
I about threw up. So Alicia is starving. Of course, she's like starving the girls, like barely feeding them.
Ugh.
And Alicia finally, she comes from like a cushy home. Like she had a
Mhm.
Grammy that took care of her, that loved her, and like fed her generously. And I love it. She's like, my Grammy says I'm such a good eater, as if
Yeah.
it were a compliment. Like, and any child of a Southern grandma, that's what they say. Oh, you're such a good eater.
You're such a good eater.
And I still pride myself on that.
Good.
Um, and so she's like starving in the hands of Miss Fairchild and sneaks downstairs, and all she can find is like a box of cornflakes. And she just
Mhm.
like downs the cornflakes because she's so hungry.
Ugh.
Like she cannot go to sleep without just feeling full. And then Miss Fairchild finds her in the morning, like, and she like pours beans on the ground and says, if you're going to eat like an animal, eat like an animal.
Yeah. Ugh. Ugh. It's so sad.
It's sick. I'm
It's
like,
sick. And how, like again, back to Sally. How'd she think of that? I
how
don't
do you
know.
think of that? Like, that is some crazy abuse to like conjure. And it must
Yeah.
be stories from her research. Like, I'm like, that's
Yeah.
how I feel like she's piecing together things that she's heard. And then the sad part of it all just being Julia still clinging to Miss
She
Fairchild, and
still
like,
yes. She
and
like
the
still wants her
sisters,
love. Ugh.
and still wants her love, and the sisters don't even shame her for it,
Mm-mm.
which was like my favorite part of the book.
Yeah.
Was and just really shows like their bond is when she goes and hugs Miss Fairchild,
Ugh.
like when they run into her in Port Agatha, and like the girls like don't even, they're not even mad at her, like
Like
they're just like more mad at Miss Fairchild for the
one
emotional
of them wants to
manipulation.
punch her and the other's hugging her. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm
Ugh.
like, that's the level of forgiveness and toleration that we need to operate on, like as people. Like,
Yeah.
recognize people have their own trauma, find the true enemy of the situation, and don't victimize, or like don't
Yeah.
attack the person who's been through trauma. Like find the
Mhm.
real enemy, be mad at them, but don't be mad at the person who's a victim of their trauma. And that is so funny because
Wow.
that's what Miss Fairchild is trying to make the psychologist think she is. Like
Mhm. Yeah.
she's
She's
trying
playing
to
the
make
victim.
playing the victim, like
Mhm.
coming up with this crazy, gross story to like get written off as mentally ill so she doesn't have to serve full time in prison. Like,
Yeah. So it's okay that she killed some baby. Like
it's okay that she abused children because she was
she's
abused
unstable.
herself.
Yeah.
And the girls take ownership of their, like Nora
Yeah.
takes ownership of like what she's done, like with some of the aggression that she does, and Julia was stilling the pills and coming clean and like owning their SIH. I'm gonna just go say shit.
Yeah.
Like they
Whoa.
own their
Whoa.
sorry guys.
Whoa. Was this Halle Bell's first curse word on the podcast?
She's unhinged.
She's unhinged. That's going to be
I
the
just
title of
think
this episode. Halle Bell curses on the internet.
I just think there's so many deeper messages in this story that we can take and walk with us in life. Like,
Yeah.
there's just so many morals that these girls are so strong, and it just makes you want to be that strong. Like, none of us have faced, well, I won't say none of us. I have not
Yeah.
faced what these girls have faced, and I find myself falling short of the forgiveness and the ways that they operate, and we should be operating at a higher caliber than they are, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's like the level of like chosen. I've heard this term a lot lately, like chosen family, and like the level
Love.
of chosen family that they have towards each other, even though like they're like, Nora, you shouldn't be, whichever one is dating the guys for free handiwork, like
Yes.
around their house.
Nora?
They're like, yeah, Nora, you shouldn't do that. Nora, you shouldn't punch someone. Like, Julia, you shouldn't steal the pills. But yes, we support you going and hugging Miss Fairchild. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
it's wild, the level of like friendship and sisterhood.
And you can disagree with someone's life choices and you can give them advice and try to lead them down the road. But guess what? You still can give them love. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, you cannot agree with everyone's decision, but you can still be their family
Wow.
at the end of the day.
I
I
needed to
just
hear
see
that from you, Hallie.
I
That
just
was
think
us
they're
5 minutes before
so
we started recording.
listen, it's true.
It
Like,
is true. No, it is.
true
100%.
friendship, true found family shares their
Found
opinions
family. Yeah.
in their safe space because they know that it's a safe space. They know they can speak their mind and give their opinion, and those people are not going to walk away. You know?
Yeah. I love when she talks with her hands. If you're watching this, you'll love what Halle Bell's doing with her hands. She's so passionate about this,
I
and it is
look
amazing.
mad, but I'm just so passionate about it. And I just think that this book came out at such a great time of people just not getting along, not
Mm-hmm.
talking to their families because she did this and she did that. And it's like, who cares? At the end of the day, love your family, speak your mind, don't walk away from them.
And that's the end of the episode. And mic drop. No, I
Oh my
agree. I agree
gosh.
completely. Everything you're saying is so spot on, and I just love hearing you talk about this because you loved this book so much.
Well, I do, and I just think the title's very clever
It
because
is.
because it's like they take ownership of darling girls. Like they really she used it to chastise them and
Mm-hmm.
like be like, "Oh, aren't you a darling girl?" And it's like, "No, what? No, they are darling girls."
The
Okay?
passion. Halle Bell is out of her seat right now.
If I had Miss Fairchild in a room,
Oh, don't get her
like when
started.
Julia faces her to go in and they go in, she goes to the prison after
Mm-hmm.
rehab and she's
Ugh.
like, I'm finally, and she's like, and I'm pregnant.
Mic drop.
Like, Miss Fairchild thinks she ruins that part of her life. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
she'll never have kids because I was so horrible. Like,
Nope.
taking ownership of that. And she doesn't even put Miss Fairchild down. Like, she doesn't even
No.
like scream and curse at her. Like, she gives her like what's for, but
Yeah.
she doesn't like belittle her. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she's like
Exactly.
already moved on and she's like living a better life and she's like coming out of the ground like a flower.
But isn't it crazy that she is? She's moved on, she's living a better life, but she's still going back and seeing her.
I think it was just to close the chapter. I don't
You
think
think
she'd go back.
you don't?
No, I think it was like, I loved you, but
Past
now
tense.
I'm moving on. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm better than this. Yeah. Wow.
And normalize that too. I mean, I'm not saying you need to stick by someone through stick and stones, but like not definitely don't stick by your abuser. But
Yeah.
like I she walked away from that, like, and that takes strength. It takes just as much strength to walk away as it does to stay.
Yeah. Yeah. Honey P.
Honey
100%.
And
100%.
I love Nora's love story in the middle of all of this because she's just going through like the worst things. Like,
Uh,
I think arguably sometimes like worse than Julia because at least Julia has like this great husband
yeah.
and like she has her sisters and
Yeah.
Alicia, like, oh my gosh, and Alicia's love story. Wait, I don't know whose is better.
I love Alicia's, but like Nora was so funny where he was just like, I'm taking you to court. Like, you hit
Yes.
me. It's like she punched this guy. Oh, it's not funny. It's not funny.
It's
But it
not,
was
but
just
then
like
she finds love with the bartender,
with
and
the
it's just like, and they
bartender.
love dogs, and he's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
so casual. And that's what all these girls need. If you notice, like, all their matches are like people who are really calm
Mm-hmm.
and really normal.
Yeah.
Like, they just, and that's what, like, Phil says he does for Julia. He's like, I know I have to be here
Yeah.
because you are here.
Wow.
And it's,
That's good. I like
it's,
that.
it's a parallel with how they were for Miss Fairchild. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
Julia calls that into perspective. She's like, I'm sorry, Phil, that I'm
Yeah.
like all over the place and you're having to be so consistent because I had to be that for Miss Fairchild and I don't want you to
Dang.
have to be that. So it's crazy how you can suffer from abuse, but then you can kind of like abuse someone. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
without
You're
knowing.
not necessarily abuse someone, but like reflect your abuse onto others.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I thought that that was just so beautifully done because I think that that happens in a lot of relationships, like
Yeah.
your childhood impacting your spouse
Oh
in
yeah.
reverse roles. I have to
Oh yeah.
constantly remind myself, and I had a beautiful childhood, but I have to constantly remind myself I don't have to be my mom.
Yeah.
I don't have to do the things that she did. And she did a great job raising me, and
Mhm.
so did my dad. But I have to just be like, I have to pave my own way.
Mhm.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
just because what they thought was like not right, it might be right for my family.
Mhm. Exactly.
So,
Wow. Well, what did you think? The twist that I loved so much was that Zara was
was
Amy.
Amy.
And the thing that really, like, I literally just got goosebumps thinking about it again was the moment where she was like, is it six toes or finger? It's
Six
toes.
toes.
She said, well, I have six toes. I get goosebumps thinking about it. That was
Because that
the
was crazy.
coolest
Because you
moment.
think I got scared that she was going to end the book without figuring out where Amy
I
was. And
know. I know.
I got confused a bit. And this was like maybe one of my own, like, my only like little faults was like with all the babies and their names. I was like, wasn't Zara the one that was crying all night? Like, I couldn't
Oh.
remember. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There were just so many babies.
Yeah, it was a
And
lot of
then I
babies.
was like, I had to take a double moment and be like, wait, wasn't Zara? But then it wasn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
I
could be my
love
own
that
brain.
twist though. That's
I love that twist. But I was like feeling empathy for Miss Fairchild, like up until the last page,
Were
like until the
you?
story come out. Just because I was like, this story's so nasty. Like, and she's telling it nastily. Like, she's like giving like all these weird, like, thought bubbles like while she's like
Yeah.
he's really getting worked up now, he cannot wait to hear my story, like, and I'm
Ugh.
like, oh, she's so nasty, but oh, what happened to her was so bad,
So
like,
bad.
could
But
not imagine like going through that type of level of abuse. And then of course she
it's fake.
didn't. It's
Yeah, she
fake.
didn't. She didn't even go through that level of abuse. She just conjured it in her head.
Like, what do you think's wrong with her? Now let's get to the root of that. What is wrong with this
Halle
child?
Bell loves to find like the villain.
I just need to understand the villain. I'm like, And like that's what you think. And I think a lot of people are that way. That's like, why are they the way they are? Why did they
Yeah.
do that? And it seems as though like she became evil after her father died. Because that was
Yeah.
true.
That was
And her
yeah.
mom like neglected her. So I think that she does mention dealing like her therapist helps her deal with a sociopath. That's what Julia's therapist labels Miss Fairchild as, is a sociopath. And I think you can
Mhm.
be born a sociopath
Yeah, 100%.
and
For
it
sure.
not like just conjure.
Yeah. Well, I think what you said, and I'm thinking of a certain person in my life that like kind of matches this, where like the
I'm like, who is
parent
this?
like, oh, I can't say that on the internet, but one parent like dies in a sense, so then they latch on to the only parent they have left, but then the new parent finds
Gets in a
love
relationship. Yeah.
and like the parent has found their new happiness leaving the child with nothing. So that's problem one. Not problem, but that's the first problem in their head. And then parent two with the new parent has new kid, and that's the enemy, you know?
Yes. But that's so sad because it's like that's your half sibling.
Yeah, but the one person you were relying on, parent two, went and found love and made new baby. I don't know.
I mean, I guess that's
Those are
where it
my
has to
thoughts.
go. And I think that people it's crazy because mental illness is like, are you born? Is she born with it, or is it Maybelline? Like,
Yeah.
is this like, is it the world, or is their brain really like just born this way with evil tendencies? I
Mhm.
had someone tell me, and I won't name any names, but that they were like the mother was observing the children in the bathtub and they were all of young age. It was two sisters and they were sitting there just playing, having fun. And like and I don't know if this story is true or not, but this is just the
Okay.
only example that comes to mind. They were like 2 and 3 years old, 1 year apart. And the 3-year-old sister, or no, the 2-year-old sister just slams the sister's head into the faucet. And like
Okay.
stuff like if you have a 2-year-old, stuff like this happens, like where they just like test boundaries and you're just like, you have to show them that's not right. Like, see, she's hurting, she's injured.
Yeah.
The 2-year-old just immediately had like a laughing fit. Like was it able to register that she had hurt her sister? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that is the only real life scenario that I've and like this person assumedly
Yeah.
had grown up to be a sociopath. That's
Oh.
the only real life and they like led a troubled life after like
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was kind of like the mom's like, oh, that was my first like clue that she was a sociopath. But like I
Interesting.
I know. So if you guys have I mean I it's hard to do research on sociopaths people without like just
No, it
like
is. It
losing your
is.
mind. Like I'm sure people who study as sociopaths like how do you not become one yourself? Like
Yeah.
it
Like,
seems so
yeah.
dark and scary, but like this is like I think if you have a sociopath in your life, I feel like you'd really understand some of the behaviors of Miss Fairchild. Have you
I
ever
agree.
known a sociopath?
I think I've known a couple. No, I'm kidding. I've known
Like I think it's such a
some
loose
undercover
term
sociopath. It is. No, it is.
and people throw it around like a joke like, "Oh, he's a sociopath." But like,
She's a psycho. She's acting psycho.
yes, but there are real people that exist that are actually that.
Now, I can tell this story on the internet, and there is literally no connection to anything that matters. Have I told you the story about the clown killer?
No, please.
Okay. Okay. Guys, skip forward the next couple minutes if you don't care, but if you're into true crime, this is really interesting. So, I currently live in West Palm, which the next town over is Wellington, Florida. It's like the equestrian capital. But
Okay.
so there was a murder back in like maybe the 90s, I guess, and this person showed up to this other person's house dressed as a clown and shot them. Shot the woman who opened the door. And
Wow.
they never found out who the clown was. They never found out anything. Fast forward to where I grew up in Kingsport, Tennessee, small town Tennessee. There's this restaurant called the Purple
Oh,
Cow. There's this restaurant. And like we loved it. And we like Miss Kathy was one of my the owner, she was one of my friends like babysitters.
I'm shaking.
And yeah, and new DNA has come out. Turns out Miss Kathy, the owner of the Purple Cow, and her new husband, she was the clown, and the woman she killed was her new husband's ex in Wellington, Florida, where I currently live, and then they moved to Kingsport where I grew
Where
up.
you used to live.
And she was literally Maddie Looney's babysitter. One of my friends. Yes, she was one of my friend's babysitter. And like we didn't think anything was wrong with this woman. Like she was perfectly normal, like super nice southern small
What's the
town lady.
statute of limitations? Is she in jail?
Oh, like I don't know if like they're done with everything, but like she's been on trials and stuff. Like things are bad things are happening to this woman now because like DNA with the clown suit and the hair and stuff. But yeah, I think she's probably the only sociopath I really know.
That and that's that.
And that's that. Isn't that crazy?
But honestly, can you categorize her as a sociopath? Because technically, that was
Oh,
a crime of passion, which means she
oh,
cares. And
the
sociopaths have a
technicalities.
level of they don't care.
Empathy,
And that's
yeah.
what makes them a sociopath. Like they do things
Yeah.
out of like just
Crap.
like nothingness. Like there's nothing that's making Miss Fairchild except for the loss of her father do
Mhm.
these things to these girls. And even to the extent of like these girls didn't do anything to her. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that's
no.
like the earmark of a sociopath is that nothing was done to them to make this happen.
But well,
Oh, go
yes, I
ahead.
agree with you. No.
Okay.
No, I agree with you. But let's think about the turn, how Miss Fairchild acted when Amy started to like the girls more than her, you
Yeah.
know? Like I think Miss Fairchild's demeanor changed when she realized that like Amy was relying on and like loving the girl children more than her as her mom, you know?
I think it's just an overall lacking of like no one's ever gonna love Miss Fairchild right. Not her
Yeah.
mom, not these girls, not the baby, not even her dad.
No.
I think that she's so selfish in the way that she wants to be treated that no one is ever going to treat her good enough.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people know people like that.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you.
So it's
Mm.
almost it's like it's not that the love is spurring her on, it's more like the selfishness,
Yeah, the jealousy, the selfishness, the
the jealous.
narcissism.
Like it's not really about the love for her.
Mhm.
Because
Wow.
even if she gets like undying love like Julia presented to her, like she loved her until she tried to drown her in a
Until she literally
pool.
tried to kill her. Yeah.
And then even after that, like that's unfailing love. And she was even literally she loves her sisters, but she literally gives her insider information. Do you remember this twist?
Yeah.
She gives her the information that like they're going to go tell about Amy. Like she's been giving her
Mhm.
information all the time, all the while. And so like she has a dedicated person, but it's still not good enough.
It's yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. That is crazy.
Yes, it's so and I was like and even then and that's where I was going with the sisters. It's like even then the sisters don't hold her responsible.
Mhm.
They're like
Mhm.
you were a victim of terrible abuse. You don't get
Yeah.
held responsible for the sins you committed in that situation.
Yeah.
And that's
This
just
is
amazing.
Yeah, no, it is. This is really like an ode to Sally Hepworth. And I think my first sentence in my review was like that this book changed how I felt about her. I still don't
Yeah,
think her like writing and character development is the best, but the fact that like her storytelling abilities are phenomenal. Like the fact that she
absolutely.
makes up this crazy world of all these things, like it's wild.
And she does what we've talked about in previous episodes of developing things like taking on topics that are hard to
Mhm.
talk about and showing them in a fictional world, hoping that people can relate and learn. I think
Yeah.
that she does it better than anyone.
Oh, hot
No, like
take, Callie.
better than any of the books that we've read
Yeah,
of late.
yeah. No, I do agree. I definitely agree with you. Like she does it in such a meticulous, is that the right word? Meticulous?
Yes, like
Meticulous? What? She does it
meticulous.
very precisely and she does it
Yes.
very well. She might not write the characters as well as she could, in my opinion, and she might not have the best
Mm,
editors, but she is a very, very detail oriented, very good at telling a story, and very good at making you obsessed with the story, you know?
I 100% agree. So what did you give this book?
Mhm. I, back in December, gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, which is huge for me because I gave the last and the only other Sally Hepworth book that I've ever read. I think I gave this only like 2. It was
Oh my
not,
gosh.
yeah, but I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars and I really loved it. And I will say, I flew through this book, but it took me like probably 3 or 4 times to start it. Like, I would read a few
Oh
chapters
yeah.
I would read a few chapters, put it down, and then like a week later I'd pick it back up. And it took me a very long time to get into the book, but once I was into it, I was like, "Oh, heck yes. Like this is it."
I had the time chunk on my hand, and I think the one thing that to like get it going, like sometimes if you start a book and you only have 20 minutes, like it you kind of have to start and restart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I had like the time chunk, like I had an hour of reading. And then
Mhm.
on page 89,
Oh my God.
that's when you find out that it's Miss Fairchild in the therapy session, that's the fourth POV.
Wait, you find out that early on?
I mean, it feels late though, because I mean, it's almost 100 pages in. And I
Whoa, I
highlighted it
don't
because I
remember
was like,
that.
whose POV is this? Like, it's none of the girls because we've already gotten all the girls' backstories.
See,
And that's when I really was hooked. And I was like,
but
oh, here we go.
who did you think it was though? Because I was convinced it was Amy.
Oh, that's really smart. That's really. I thought it was Julia, but I was like so confused
Oh,
because I was like, we already had Julia's backstory. I don't have any sound reason for that except for on my book, and this is a problem with the iBook, is that it kind of fell under Julia's chapter. Like
yes,
they didn't,
yes.
and that was really bothersome. And I'm like, I wish that the layouts on iBooks were just a little bit more organized. I doubt it's like that in the book, like in the paper copy.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's so funny though because remember Rabbit Hole didn't have any chapters and you loved it.
No, I loved it, but I wasn't
It
reading
got
like multiple
confusing.
POV like that. Like I wasn't
Exactly.
reading this is multiple POVs and I need to know who's talking.
Uh-huh.
Like I get it's supposed to
Yeah.
be a mystery chapter, but the way that it was on it like
Uh-huh.
continued on the same page. So that's just a
Oh,
small
that's
gripe with
interesting.
iBook.
Well, and I also read very, very, very many like reviews saying that the editors did a like horrible job with this book. So
Yeah.
it could also be like literally an editorial thing that like maybe the
Oh,
format was wrong.
and the other fun fact about this book that you just
Oh,
brought up to me because she had originally named the characters Jackie, Margot, and Claudia.
yes, yes, yes.
And then she changed the names, and I'm guessing at the nod of her editors because why else would she like made a big deal about correlating it? If you know the girls from the Toast, the
Yeah.
Oshry sisters, maybe it was the Oshry sisters saying they don't want to be any part of the book if it was going to be of this subject matter, or it was the editors saying that she needed to pick more
Calm
generic
down.
names.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. I completely forgot about that.
It was a
Huh.
big deal when it came out because
It
she
was.
released the foreword and then everyone was posting about it. I'm not
Yeah,
a
the
real
toaster. Yeah.
I'm a toaster, but I'm not a real toaster anymore because I have kids and I don't watch every episode. But I love the girls,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
that I follow them, and so I was like interested. I was like, was it the girls that shut that down, or was it the editors,
Ooh.
or was it Sally and she decided to go a different direction? I don't know,
Wait,
but
that's a
I
great
want the answer.
question. Yeah, we should reach out to her and ask. Huh. Wait, so did you say what did you rate the book?
Oh, I give this a 4.8 stars because for
Ooh.
me, this is as good as it gets. Like, I just really
But
connected with the subject matter.
yeah.
But the only reason why I don't give it 5 stars is I do
Mhm.
think that some of the chapters and the orders in which things could have been told, like editors are supposed to guide authors and make
Yeah.
those suggestions, I think that it could have been better because there was
Wow.
some confusing times for me, and maybe I wouldn't have tried to name all the babies just because
Yeah.
like it made it really confusing to try to do the Amy and the Zara correlation for me.
Well, this book was also just very confusing to keep up with anyway because you're
Yeah.
getting four different point of views from two different time frames, you
Yes.
know? So it's also
And if
just
you took
very
a long time to
confusing.
read this book and you were like, this is my nighttime read, I only have 30 minutes
Yeah.
at night. And so you space it out over a week and a half because some nights you don't read. I could see falling or losing interest in this book
Yeah. Yeah.
simply because of the layout.
Mhm. Like, there were some times when I was like, "Oh my god, I feel like I don't remember whose I liked the most, but there were some times where I was like, "Can we just get back to Julia? Like, come on, I don't care
Yes.
about the other two." Like,
And that was another thing I was really invested. I love all the girls, but I was really invested in Julia's story in the beginning. And then
yeah.
I was like really hooked on Miss Fairchild, and then I was really hooked on Alicia.
Yeah.
Like I had my moments with each character of like, wait, no, get back to
Yeah.
that. Like
Exactly.
and I kind of like that, but I do think it kind of I don't know. I feel like you can lose some people in the journey because it's not the
Mhm.
story's fault. Like the story is really well done
Yep.
and the like scenes and the
Yep.
writing, but it's more of just how it was pieced together, I think, for me.
Yep. I completely agree. That is my daily gripe with Sally
What?
Hepworth. Yeah.
It's and see, it's not even her fault.
No. Well, it might be. I don't know. We don't know.
I don't know.
It might be. Um, I'm looking at my questions because when I did read this book, I wrote a lot of book club questions, and you
Mm.
kind of answered one of them, which, oh, well, we talked about the Zara Amy twist. We talked about the social worker. I said I thought that Dr. Warren was talking to Amy. Whose point of view did you like the most? Julia's?
It and again, like I think I just nod to what I said. Like it like fluctuated based on how much I knew of the characters. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
really but I hated it because I felt like the therapist when I was like, get back to Miss Fairchild's
Yeah,
story.
yeah,
Like I'm
yeah,
so
yeah.
greedy for this terrible story. Like I was
Yeah.
like, ooh, I'm no worse
And
than
and
this
that therapist was
psychiatrist.
awful. Horrible therapist.
Oh my gosh, just I just think that any kind of person that just like is like, oh, sit down, tell me about your trauma. Like, I don't care. Like, she's like, he's so
Yeah.
burnt down from the system, but I'm going to give him a story that piques his interest. Like, I feel
That's
like any person in
crazy.
a vulnerable place might have the same tactic.
Mhm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, who's going to
Oh,
pay
for sure.
attention to me if my own therapist won't?
Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely. Did you like which time did you like? Like now or then?
Now, I loved seeing the
Oh,
bond
see,
of the sisters.
I liked then.
I know, like laying in bed at night, but I just like seeing them like safe. I think that that was my big thing. I'm like, in the present, I think they're going to be safe. But as children, they were just so vulnerable to me.
Was there like any point in the book where you thought that the sisters did kill Amy or you thought that they did it? Because I
No.
did.
Oh, really? When?
I don't know. I don't know when exactly, but I definitely had my suspicions at some point, and it was I don't
Mostly on,
know.
I think honestly, if I had to pen any sister, I think it was going to be
Mm,
Julia because of the like medication. Like everyone's like, Nora's so aggressive. And I'm like, Nora would not kill a baby. Like
no.
she didn't,
No, no, no.
no.
Hmm.
And
I
Alicia was
really
just like so sweet, but like there just
yeah.
would not have been any way she would have killed the kid.
I don't know, but you get the three of them working together. That's a story. I don't know.
I don't know. I just was like Miss Fairchild. I was just so anti Miss Fairchild that
Yeah.
I was just like, it couldn't be.
Yeah. Well, I just had my hopes that the foster system would like be better and really have their eyes on Miss Fairchild, but the scene that like drove me the most mad was when they do finally come clean and then the police come to the house and there's not one trace of a baby. Like this baby, they're like, it's made up. And then the doll, I'm like, there's no trace of a baby. And they're making these little girls seem like psychopaths. Like,
Yeah, and like deflecting mental illness on anyone, I just think is awful. Like telling someone, like labeling someone with that and you're not a professional. Like, I don't know. Like, I just think it was so terrible. Like,
it was.
it's just such a bad situation because there was like no proof. So crazy.
Yeah. Dang.
Um, wow. Okay, well, I love talking about this book. We
I
do
wish
have
I
a
did too, but I wish I would have read it like last week.
Yeah, me too.
I
I wish
know,
that
I'm
you would have
sorry.
read it again.
I'm sorry.
I'm just
I'm
kidding. You
sorry.
carried the conversation very well. It all came back to you.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the episode. We have a special guest for our next
Ooh.
episode. Our graphic designer. I don't even label her as that because
Because we didn't
she's
hire her.
not
Well, I
our
guess we
graphic designer. She has a big girl job. But the girl who did the girl,
the
it just
girl, the
seems
darling
this
girl
is
who
just
did our
all
design.
such little words for this
She's so
person.
darling.
Okay, my best friend, Michelle and I's
Mhm.
friend Ellie is coming on the podcast. She has
Yay.
picked a book and
Ooh.
we are all going to talk about it. It's called The First Lie Wins and I
Mm.
cannot wait to read it.
I'm
I've
very
already started it.
excited. Yeah, I'm very excited.
We will see you guys for that next episode and I hope that you guys have a great day and read up.
And continue to be darling little girls.
Like
I'm gonna make that
us.
my I'm gonna make that my Instagram bio. Darling, a darling girl.
I'm a darling girl.
All
Aren't
right.
we all?
Aren't we all? Thank you guys for listening.
Bye.
Bye.